Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday webinar with Hire. I'm really looking forward to this one. Before we kick off, for anyone who might be new to Hire, might be new to our weekly webinars, you're very welcome. My name is Kelly McGrath-Smith and I am the Community Director at Hire. For those who don't know who we are a global community of internal TA and HR folk. So we've got an amazing Slack community. We've got over 10,000 members at the moment and growing. We put on these webinars weekly on LinkedIn Live, but we also have lots more good stuff inside the community, including in-person events, as well as virtual roundtables and more intimate events as well. I'll pop the little banner below if anyone wants to head over and sign up. I always think this reminds me of some sort of news flash, like running along the bottom of the screen. But it is hirehq.com for anyone who would like to join us. And I guess for like a little bit of context, we like to see ourselves almost as the global hive mind of TA, and really we're on a bit of a mission to up-level and upskill the industry. And this is one of the reasons why we love bringing you these weekly webinars. So they happen every Wednesday, same time, same place. We also have replays available if anyone isn't able to watch them live. But we always say the joys of watching them live, if you can, is you get your questions answered in real time by our expert hosts or panelists. So yeah, this one should be a good one. So I am going to pass over to our lovely guest, Rich, to introduce himself. Before I do, all I would say to anyone who has joined us is we love these sessions to be as interactive as possible. So please do drop us a comment, a question as we go through, but we will also have time for a Q&A at the end. So if there's any burning questions that we haven't covered, we will get to them at the end. And today's webinar is all around optimizing employee experience, and we'll be really looking at offboarding, parental leave, and then offboarding strategies as well. So Rich, do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction and let us know who you are?
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen and pop this into a slideshow. So yeah, as Kelly says, welcome to today's session. We're going to be looking at optimizing employee experience for onboarding, parental leave, and offboarding strategies. So I'm really glad that everyone's sort of here to learn more about the impact that onboarding, parental leave, and offboarding has on that experience. But first off, let me just sort of introduce myself. So my name is Rich Moore. I'm the global team lead for strategic customer success at Enboarder. I've worked in the people space for the last 18 years. So my entire career. I started off in talent acquisition, so spent 11 years recruiting for organizations such as Deloitte, Zurich Insurance, Santander. Then about 6.5 years ago, I made the switch to HR tech as a customer success manager at LinkedIn. So I was at LinkedIn for 5 years as part of their global accounts team. And then 18 months ago, I wanted to move into more of a scale-up environment. So joined Enboarder and lead on the strategic customer success. So just to level set expectations for the session, I wanted to start off by reviewing what we'll be covering off today. So first off, I want to review the current state of belonging that we're seeing in organizations and how that impacts the employee journey overall. Then I'll talk more about the power of first impressions, how to create a world-class onboarding experience. Then I'll show you best practices on navigating leave at work, where I'll cover a little bit more into how to put experience top of mind, both before and after an employee takes family leave. And then finally, I'll touch on the importance of building lasting bonds through offboarding and the impacts that this can have on ambassadorship and boomerang employees as well. So please feel free to add comments sort of as we go through the session. There will be a bit of a Q&A at the end, but if I can, then I'll answer those as we go through as well. So let's jump in. In the age of loneliness, connection is really important. So I want to set the stage for employee experience by discussing what research tells us about the current challenges that workers are feeling. So some of these issues have been brought on by COVID, but much of it derives from a longer term lack of connection and belonging at work. So in a recent survey by McKinsey, I think 3/4 of respondents admitted they've been connecting less frequently. They have smaller networks and are putting less effort into building relationships, both inside and outside of work. But it's not just about feeling disconnected. So our mental and our physical health are taking a hit too. So even before the pandemic hit, studies have linked isolation to higher stress and depression levels in the workplace. So it's no surprise that being isolated has led to burnout, to exhaustion, and overall poor well-being. Also, I think many of us are feeling disengaged and drained as well. So according to Gallup's latest report, I think a mere 21% of employees are fully engaged at work. That comes with a hefty price tag as well. So disengaged employees are showing up 30%, 37% less. They're being 18% less productive, and they're even contributing to 15% lower profitability. So it's having a real impact on organizations. I think a lot of employees are also feeling out of sync with their organizations, and some feel that they're set up to fail. So that could be unclear communication or a lack of transparency. So research has shown that when companies don't share the whole picture, employees start to feel like they don't quite belong. And as I think anyone will attest to, that's not a great feeling. Creating a sense of belonging, it's not a new problem or pain point for companies across the world. However, with the major shifts that we've been seeing in the workforce, it's becoming one of the most important issues to solve for. So companies are more aware than ever that nurturing inclusion and belonging among their employees is critical to both organizations and to the individuals that make it up. But I think most organizations are in a state of decision paralysis when it comes to where to start and how to create. So probably a good place to start with this as well is a definition of what belonging is. So at Enboarder, we define belonging as the feeling of being an essential part of a group or environment. So it involves feeling valued, feeling accepted, and feeling needed within that group, all while being able to be completely and wholly themselves. And I think that there's a big difference between belonging and fitting in. Brené Brown said it best in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. So fitting in is about assessing a situation and becoming who you need to be accepted. Whereas belonging, on the other hand, doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. Enboarder isn't the only one researching this topic either. So Deloitte's 2020 Global Human Capital Trends Survey named belonging, along with well-being, as one of the most important human capital issues. So nearly 8 out of 10 companies said that fostering a sense of belonging in the workplace was a priority, and 93% of them agreed that a sense of belonging drives organizational performance. Companies also know that belonging delivers ROI. So employees with a higher sense of belonging are more engaged, which, as we saw from some of those stats, it leads to higher levels of productivity and retention. I think in the end, what employees crave is what they've always craved. It's more investment in the human aspects of work with more purpose and more meaning. Employees want social and interpersonal human connections with their colleagues and their managers, and they want to feel valued and they want to belong. I think humans are hardwired to want and need belonging. I think traditionally, we used to seek relationships within familiar social structures to find and build those connections. So, that was through family, through religion, through neighborhoods, through communities, etc. But as technology continues to develop and 1/3 of our lives has moved to being in a work environment, I think many of the places that we used to go for this sense of belonging and connection have fundamentally changed. Very obviously, people are using their work lives to try and build relationships in their personal lives. So knowing that belonging is an essential part of the human experience and that employees are craving it more than ever, is the first step in making your employees feel like they belong at your company. And really, the first step of that is to understand the fundamentals. The 4 elements of belonging are so important to think about to help organizations understand belonging, but also how to design and measure efforts and success. So feeling seen, it's all about, being recognized, being rewarded and respected by your colleagues. Feeling connected, having positive, authentic social interactions with peers, with managers, and with senior leaders from the organization. Feeling supported is, all of those around you, those peers, those senior leaders, giving you what you need to get your work done and to be able to live a full life. And then finally, feeling proud. So I think when you're proud of your work, you're proud of your organization, and then you're also going to feel aligned with its purpose, with its vision, with its values, all kind of help to create that really positive connected employee experience. So recently, Enboarder released our annual connection survey. So we asked 900 employees across the US, Australia, and the UK how connected they feel at work, and then the impact of their engagement programs. So this was looking at programs such as onboarding, career development, mentorship programs. And I wanted to show you a little bit of the data and some of the trends that we saw in the report and the impact that might have on the employee experience overall as well. So overall, there was a 14 percentage point drop in the number of respondents who feel very connected to their co-workers. So in 2022, it was 56%, down to 42% in 2023. The biggest drops that we saw were centered around collaboration, engagement, and feeling like your company is a great place to work. So, we can see a 10 percentage point drop in the collaborative workplace, a workplace keeping people engaged. That went from 57% in 2022 down to 45%. And then the workplace being a great place to work and somewhere you'd recommend to others, 44% strongly agree in 2023 versus 54% in 2022. This is just the high-level data from the report, which we can share if you're interested. But I think in summary, Enboarder's report shows an overall sentiment about the workplace and employees' sense of connectedness is trending down year on year. And the data tells us that your biggest flight risks are your disconnected employees. They're 4 times as likely to quit in the next 6 months. So how can you craft an effective HR strategy in the midst of all this? The data in our report tells us that really it's time to get back to basics. So essentially, there's no need for extravagant budgets to get people excited and engaged at work, especially through onboarding and family leave transitions. So it starts with authenticity. Take an inventory of your current people programs, understand how each program maps back to your company values. And then are there steps where you can solicit employee feedback and bring your employee's voice into the conversation as well? It's important to be flexible. I think everyone probably feels information overload and overwhelm at time. They're real issues. So it's time to sort of, meet employees where they're at, offer self-paced programs that fit into the flow of work without setting them back. And then I think most importantly, it's about building human connection. So there's not one single HR initiative that's responsible for driving human connection. I think every program and every initiative should advance employees' connections within their team, cross-functionally, or with your organization as a whole. So how can you consistently and sustainably spark new connections and then build on the social capital that already exists? A sense of belonging and connection is paramount. And when an employee first starts a position with a new company, so I want to delve into the significance of a good or bad onboarding process and how that really shapes an employee's journey with an organization. So I'm sure everyone has had both good and bad onboarding experiences. I've certainly had, them at each end of the scale and somewhere in between. And the way that I kind of think about a good onboarding experience is like laying a solid foundation for a building. So it's providing employees with all of the tools, all of the knowledge and the resources that they need to be successful in their roles and really setting them up for success. Whether that's structured training programs, warm welcomes. I think good onboarding really cultivates a positive atmosphere. It fosters engagement, motivation, and a sense of belonging. And then on the flip side of that, that poor onboarding experience can be really detrimental both to the individual, but also to the organization. If we think about, time to productivity, that individual being engaged. So it's really important to have a positive, enriching onboarding experience and pave the way for engaged, productive and loyal employees for all of those kind of key moments through the employee life cycle. So some of the sort of the key sort of impacts or things to think about from a good onboarding experience are around skills development. So effective onboarding is going to equip employees with the necessary skills and knowledge to perform their tasks proficiently, resulting in a more confident and capable workforce. It's going to promote retention and loyalty. Employees who experience a positive onboarding are more likely to stay with the company longer term. And it's going to help obviously reduce attrition rates and turnover rates. And then engagement and productivity. So employees who are engaged from the start, that it leads to increased productivity, faster integration into the team and company culture. So if we think about those sort of, I guess, the issue sort of onboarding that we see sometimes, this is definitely the kind of onboarding experience that I've had in the past. So through that recruitment process, you're courting that individual, there's lots of contact, you're meeting the direct manager, you're meeting a senior leader, you're meeting people from the team, there's lots and lots of contact. You get the offer, you accept the offer, and then you don't hear anything. You're on maybe 1 month, maybe 3 months notice. You don't hear anything. And then what you do hear, it's fill out this form. Hey, we need this information from you. So it's very task orientated. And then on day one, maybe the manager isn't actually aware of what the start date might be. Your IT equipment's not there. The business isn't ready for you. And 86% of people make up their mind as to whether they're going to stay within the organization within the first 6 months. So, the flip of that is from that point of offer, it's about increasing that level of engagement. So, we're reinforcing that individual's decision, removing any anxiety they've got. Maybe it's inviting them to socials. They're feeling like they're part of the team. Like, what information can we give them before they start to help them get ahead and make sure that they're set up for success, whilst also having, being able to communicate with the manager, make sure that the IT equipment's being ordered, that, everything's ready for them to go on day one. Maybe they've got a mentor or a buddy there from day one. So we've got all of that ready to go. The business is ready, you're ready, and everyone's set up for success. So 6 tips for successful onboarding. And you can look at all of these tips to create virtual, in-office or hybrid onboarding experiences as well. So tip 1 is around tailoring those onboarding plans to individual needs. One vital aspect of that successful experience is really kind of tailoring it to individual needs. New hires will come from different backgrounds, they'll have different experiences, and they'll require varying levels of support because of that. So for instance, if we think about an early in careers, individuals who are early in their careers, they may need close support during their transition into their first full-time job, while seasoned hires might need more support adjusting to a new company culture rather than subject matter knowledge. So to enhance their onboarding experience, you can create individualized onboarding plans, timelines, assign mentors, as it said, provide specific learning materials and resources that cater to their unique needs. Secondly, I think it's about setting clear and realistic expectations from day one. Communication is key here. We all know what it's like to have bad communication or have something not communicated. So make sure to communicate job-specific information, expectations and deadlines in a timely manner. Managers can engage in debriefs after significant milestones to help recognise success, but also to identify any roadblocks, ensuring a smoother path moving forward. So that open communication is going to help to build trust. It will establish a solid manager-employee relationship, which is really crucial, I think, especially if we're thinking about things like remote or hybrid settings. Tip 3 is around using technology for training and communication. So I think in today's remote and hybrid work environment, tech plays such a pivotal role in that onboarding process. And remote hires depend on various tools and channels for training and comms. So whether that's video conferencing, messaging platforms, learning platforms, company intranets. So being able to provide the necessary hardware, software, a secure internet connection is really essential for their successful integration into the company. Tip 4, establish a buddy system or mentorship program. A buddy system or mentor program, it's a really, really good way of giving new hires the guidance and the support that they need during the onboarding process. So by pairing them with experienced employees who understand the company's policies and procedures and culture, you're really able to sort of provide a value support system to those new hires. Mentors can offer not only guidance on job duties, but also, those insights into company culture, team dynamics, work-life balance. And then that kind of support helps new hires to acclimate really quickly, especially when, working remotely or hybrid. 5, organize virtual team building activities. If you've got hybrid or some remote and some in-office employees, you really need to kind of think about that as you're sort of planning for those sort of team building activities and foster that sense of belonging amongst remote workers. Incorporating activities like online social events, team projects into the onboarding process, that can be a great way for new hires to interact with their colleagues and feel like part of the team. This also encourages effective communication and collaboration in what is a virtual setting. I think also it's around gathering feedback as you go through that process and having like a really strong feedback loop. You can learn from each round of new hires to improve the onboarding process. Gathering feedback through surveys or interviews or focus groups, that helps identify strengths and weaknesses in the onboarding experience. So by continuously refining the onboarding process based on this feedback, it ensures that future hires have an even better onboarding experience. So I think by implementing these tips, embracing the potential of a more robust and thoughtful onboarding program, you can effectively and efficiently integrate new hires into their roles, setting the stage for success in the evolving landscape of work, all whilst building and growing connections and a sense of belonging. And I think, speaking of maintaining a sense of belonging, one of the most transformative experiences in an individual's life is becoming a parent. Brings a wave of unknowns and questions, making it crucial for businesses to ensure that their employees feel supported and connected during what is a pivotal time. So in this section, we're going to explore some of the critical aspects of creating a positive employee experience, both before, during, and after parental leave. So as I've mentioned, parental leave is a life-altering event. So providing adequate support during that time is paramount. So not only aids soon-to-be parents in their transition, but it also significantly boosts their productivity and engagement upon coming back into work. Effective communication plays a vital role during parental leave. So a study revealed 45% of mothers reported issues with communication during their leave, with 26% feeling they lacked adequate contact. So to address that, we recommend allowing employees to decide their preferred communication frequency and method. Empowering employees in this manner creates that sense of ownership and really sort of reduces the risk of miscommunication. Employees on parental leave also, they often struggle with feeling disconnected from the workplace. So creating dedicated platforms like LinkedIn or Facebook pages or chat channels can help to maintain a sense of connection. Those platforms are valuable for sharing important company updates and just maintaining some engagement. The next thing to think about is, and look, these are some really nice to haves, but they do really make new parents know you're supporting them in every way possible. And that's looking at sort of employee entitlements and supportive policies. Some examples of this include offering incentives such as cleaning services, flexible hours, return to work benefits. It's essential to ensure that employees are well informed about those benefits, showcasing that level of care and interest that you're taking as an organization. I think in the realm of parental leave, small gestures like this can make a significant difference. These gestures not only enhance the overall experience, but they also translate into increased employee loyalty and happiness as well. When it comes time to transition back to work, managers play a crucial role in ensuring a smooth transition during parental leave. So their familiarity with company policies and government regulations is vital. So establishing predetermined touch points for managers along that parental leave timeline is going to facilitate open communication and provide employees with the necessary support. When you think about it, returning to work post-parental leave presents unique challenges in achieving work-life balance. So it's essential for organizations to prepare for the employee's return adequately. So that could include setting up workspaces, fostering a welcoming environment, small gestures like welcome cards or team lunches. So I think in conclusion, a positive parental leave experience is a cornerstone of employee satisfaction and long-term loyalty. By empowering employees during that sort of crucial phase, businesses can ensure a smooth transition and reap the rewards of a more engaged and committed workforce. So we encourage organizations to adopt supportive policies and practices. We're open to kind of sharing and learning from successful sort of parental leave engagement strategies as well. Finally, wanted to talk about the importance of offboarding employees from the organization. I think departing employees often leave a huge hole in the fabric of your team or organizational structure. All the more so if that's a superstar or linchpin employee who is an important part of the team. So according to Stockholm University and the University of Canterbury, companies see a 41% decline in job satisfaction, a 36% decline in organizational commitment, and a 20% decline in job performance for remaining employees. So in our experience, three of the main things here that HR can do to ensure a positive offboarding experience are nailing your last impression, empowering people managers to really sort of nail that offboarding experience, and then keep other employees engaged and productive is absolutely key. So saying goodbye to a valued employee can be tough. Feels like a sudden loss. It's leaving a gap in the team, or for some individuals within the kind of the company culture as well. But that resignation doesn't have to be a final farewell. So we'll take a look at how we can transform those resignations into opportunities and turning departing employees into engaged and supportive alumni. So departing employees often have and will continue to maintain important ties within the organization and with your people within it. So cultivating and keeping the goodwill of alumni can be important for several reasons. Alumni employees have lots of institutional knowledge. They're still close to your products and your mission. They're referrers, they're storytellers, and I think really importantly, they're brand ambassadors. If they've had a really positive experience, they can also still provide networking opportunities and support for employees. And some will become boomerang hires and come back to the organization. Great offboarding helps everyone transition more easily when an employee leaves. and it results in leavers feeling more positive overall about their experience with the company. So to create that sense of support for departing employees, we use the same model of the 4 C's that Dr. Talia Bauer from SHRM has put together for onboarding purposes, which is clarification, connection, compliance, and culture. So this is a terrific way to transition employees into their new future and turn a goodbye into a see you later. So thinking about that, clarification is all around managing expectations every step of that process, providing information for leavers to ensure that they have a smooth and really supported exit, and then offer manager nudges with relevant information and advice for that offboarding process. Connection is about them staying connected, beyond their last day. So regular messages to your leavers to make them feel that they were valued and provide that positive farewell experience. And then using manager nudges to keep the remaining team engaged and productive as well. From a compliance perspective, it can take the hassle out of deprovisioning and paperwork. So ensuring that all involved stakeholders remain compliant and through every step of that process. Make sure you're collecting equipment, services such as hardware and ID badges, making it easy and unemotional. And then finally, culture. It's about ensuring that smooth transition. So using messages, nudges, facilitated meetings for managers and remaining employees to ensure that you're keeping that culture intact and ensure that no one is isolated by the departure of an employee from the team. So in summary, the employee experience begins with a really, really robust onboarding process, which is a crucial foundation that sets the tone for an employee's journey within an organization. Equally vital is any kind of reboarding process after family leave or an extended absence, recognizing the unique needs of employees returning to work and ensuring a seamless transition. And then lastly, a well-structured offboarding process is essential, not only for departing employees, but for the company as well. So it offers a chance to leave a positive and lasting impression, potentially turning exiting employees into advocates and even future assets. By recognizing and prioritizing these key phases, onboarding, reboarding, and offboarding, organizations demonstrate a commitment to a holistic approach in enhancing that employee experience. This sort of approach will foster a culture of empathy, of support, of sustained growth, where employees feel valued, supported, and ready to contribute their best at every stage of their professional journey. So with that, I hope that you enjoyed the session on building connection and engagement within your organization, and we'll sort of open it up for Q&A now.
Amazing. Rich, that was brilliant. I'm really, really interested in also seeing the report that you folks at Enboarder did. I think it sounds like it's probably got some great stats and insights from it as well. Like you said, please do pop in a question or a comment into our little comment box. We're happy to kind of run through any questions that you might have as you're watching or listening. One thing that I was just curious to maybe get your viewpoint on is, a lot of our community members, for example, work for startups or either smaller businesses that don't maybe have a huge HR function. What might be almost like the starting point for someone? So maybe they're, I don't know, the first TA person in an organization, the first HR person, they've got a lot on their plate, but they really appreciate the importance of all of these topics that we spoke about, and I guess the first point would probably be that onboarding piece if they're building something up. What could be like almost like and I know it's not a quick win, I know this is a bigger piece, but if someone is just starting out, is there anything that they can really start to do initially that will really kind of help set them up for success as they start to grow and finesse their processes more?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I think with organizations where startup, scale up, I think that the biggest and most important thing for me is cross-functional collaboration. It's really important to be able to pull in other individuals from across the organization to really kind of help drive some of those things. So, you know, if we're thinking about that from an onboarding experience, who are the individuals that are going to be hiring, you know, more frequently, or who are the ones that have hired up until this point that we can kind of bring in to use their expertise from what they've done so far from an onboarding perspective. So I think that quite often there's a real sort of desire to, and hey, look, I work in a scaling organization at the moment. You don't always have all of the resources, but normally there's something sat somewhere that someone's put together. So, you know, by working cross-functionally and collaboratively across organizations, I think it can be a really good way to sort of understand what's already there, not have to reinvent the wheel, use that as a base, like whilst also having kind of that ultimate goal of what you're trying to achieve in place. But yeah, I think, you know, one person can certainly drive a lot of it, but I think, you know, you need to get the buy-in from other people in the organization.
Yeah, so build a bit of a team around you, lean on hiring managers, any ambassadors that you can within the business as well. We've got a question from Hilary. So she said, really good session, thank you. And then could you expand a little more about how to keep remaining employees engaged, particularly if a leaver is from a very small team? So for example, it's a kind of 2 to 3 person team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've certainly been in those situations where we've got a smaller team, someone's left, and it can leave a really big hole. So I think it's really important, firstly, as a perhaps a manager from within that team, to really honor and acknowledge that this has happened. I think, you know, some people will be like, okay, that person's gone, we're just going to hire someone new. They don't really have that conversation with the team. So I think, you know, that is the first point of being able to have an open conversation and talk about, you know, almost the loss of that individual from the team, because it can be difficult. You know, if I think about this from a change management perspective, you know, you go through kind of the different stages, you know, so it's really important to be able to sort of honor that. I think in terms of then keeping them engaged, I think it's going to be quite dependent on the team. So what are the positives that can come from it? With that individual leaving, was there projects that they were working on that the other teams can now be involved in? How can we use that as like a positive experience for those individuals that are within the team to be able to develop themselves further, so that they don't just feel like that person's exited, we've brought someone new in and they're now going to be, you know, doing all of theirs. So where are the development opportunities within that for those remaining employees? So yeah, I think honoring that, having an open forum for those people to be able to discuss how they're feeling about it, and then ensuring that we're providing development opportunities as we move forward.
Yeah, really good question, Hilary. And I think it's also quite a hot topic at the moment with a lot of teams, you know, having had layoffs, redundancies, maybe they're rebuilding. And I think that employee engagement piece is really front of mind. We will have a webinar particularly on this towards the end of November. So keep an eye out on our page, because we will have something a bit more detailed on this as well. But anyone else, if you've got any other questions, we've got a few moments, so we can cover anything else that you might be wondering. And I guess, Rich, us on that piece around, you know, keeping the remaining employees engaged, I guess, like, as you were saying, kind of bringing it back to that belonging piece in terms of, you know, who you have left, acknowledging, like you said, that someone has left, not ignoring the situation, because I think, you know, we're all adults in the world of work. We know what's going on. When it comes to almost like rebuilding belonging, where, and I guess maybe you've got a little bit of a you know, a newer team in terms of, maybe you had a bigger team, now it's a small team, maybe you've had to kind of bring new people in. Is there anything, I guess, from your perspective that can help really kind of initially start to almost just help a team that maybe aren't really feeling connected, you know, individually or as a team?
Yeah, so great question. And as you were kind of speaking, that the one thing that was kind of in the back of in the front of my mind is speak to the employees. That employee voice is so important. What do they need? Like, what's going to help them feel like they belong within or connected to that organization? So I've been through organizations where redundancies happen, and I think specifically within layoffs and redundancies, it's really hard because it can be a really sad time in an organization. So it's kind of how you then move forward from that. And I think understanding what each individual needs and then how you can sort of build programs around that. So not everyone is going to want to join online social events, but providing an opportunity for that to be something versus something else that they need. I think the most important thing is getting that feedback and understanding the voice of the team and the voice of your employees.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And like we said, look, this will be up, this will remain as a replay. So if there's anyone within your business that you do want to share this with as well, it's always a topic that I think, everyone could really do with watching and re-listening as well. We've just got a comment come through from Cherie saying, I've been helping build our company's remote employee experience and it's been a challenge.
Yeah. And I totally get that. I work in a remote first company, and sometimes it's very easy to feel disconnected. I think the one thing I'd say around that challenge is the thing that you have to be with a remote workforce is really intentional. It's way easier to have a company culture when everyone's in the office, you're having a chat, you get grabbing coffee together, you get those natural social interactions that happen. Since we've kind of moved to having meetings online, you're straight into it. When you're starting a meeting, there's no real kind of opportunity to have a chat with people. I know that some teams in our organization will have quite frequent stand-ups sort of throughout the week, and actually the first part of their session on a Monday morning is talking about what they did at the weekend, is asking questions about how people are, what's going on, as opposed to diving straight into the topic of work for the week. So creating those, something as small as that. We've got 10 minutes at the beginning of this meeting where everyone gets to share what they were up to over the weekend. That having that sort of intention is a really sort of good place to start. And it doesn't need to be all glitz and glamour. It can just be a change in mindset for a lot of people, and then just helping kind of I think empowering your managers in understanding what they need to do kind of in those sorts of situations, and providing sort of a few examples of simple things like that can be a real game changer.
Amazing. And I guess it ties back into, feeling connected with your team. If you just have status updates and just talk about work, it's very hard to build that extra layer of connection, almost like the water cooler moments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly that. And also, if so some of the things that I do, and so my counterpart in our corporate customer success team is based in Australia. So it's really difficult for us to sync a lot of the time. So we do a lot of asynchronous work, and we use Slack. We spent a lot of time messaging each other on Slack, and so much gets lost in that. So we now use voice notes loads. We also we use like a video recording tool. So we'll record videos for each other, and even something as small as that in kind of this remote environment, you feel more connected to that individual, because it's that difference between seeing something written down versus having someone actually say it to you, and hearing the nuance in someone's voice as you go through as well. So I'd recommend, depending on what tools you have available to you, utilizing those kind of rich media tools as much as possible.
I love that also just from like a work-life balance perspective, because I think, if you are working with folks in Australia, for example, always having to be available live may not work with time zones. So actually, if you can supplement that with, like I said, video records, voice notes, I think that sounds like quite a nice way to have a better balance when it comes to working hours.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we have a few early morning starts, but and late nights for my colleague. But yeah, we'll try and catch up kind of synchronously once every other week, and then everything else we can just do kind of asynchronously.
Amazing. Rich, do you have any other slides that you wanted to share before I talk through next week's webinar?
Yeah, really just to say, if if anyone is interested in hearing more about Enboarder, you can scan the QR code on the screen, and then one of our team will be in touch to organise a custom walkthrough.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for just this amazing presentation that you talked through with us today. It's been really, really interesting. And I think it's hopefully one that we can kind of keep revisiting and people can kind of lean on when they need it as well. We will be back same time, same place next week with our next installment of our webinars. So next week, we're really looking at how to unlock hyper growth success. So we'll be looking at really kind of what that means, the highs and lows when you work in this environment. And we've got an amazing group who are going to come on our panel. They're like ex-Deliveroo, WeWork, Ravio, Muse, so real great experts in this area. And these ones are always good sessions as well if you do have kind of Q&As, because you get to literally talk to the people and kind of figure out maybe how they did it, or try to overcome any challenges that you might have as well. So that will be next week. That will be 4 o'clock UK time as well. And that is pretty much it for, I was going to say this, it is Wednesday, isn't it, for this Wednesday? You can probably tell I've got a pretty dodgy cold at the moment, so I'm not quite on it like usual. But I've just popped the link below for anyone who might be new to hire. So if you do work in internal HR or talent acquisition, we would love to have you in the community. We have these webinars every week that are on LinkedIn Live, open to all, but then with inside the community, which lives on Slack, we have lots of kind of sub-interest groups in terms of channels. And then we also do in-person events for community members and roundtable events as well. So hopefully see you in there if you're not already a member. And then once again, Rich, thanks a million for joining us, and hopefully we'll get to chat soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye.